Fields is a collaboration between myself, Liam Young, and another architect, Kate Davies, based in London. And both Kate and I are trained as architects, but we now operate as artists and directors. And we shape Unknown Fields as a kind of nomadic studio where we travel around the world to explore the landscapes behind the scenes of the modern city. So what Unknown Fields tries to do is to trace the shadows cast by our emerging technologies and go and visit the sites of production that so often sit ignored and forgotten, but really are at the very center of all of our lives. Kate and I do normally when we're setting up an Unknown Fields project is we try and take the temperature of the room in a way. We try and get a feel for what are the dominant conversations that people are having right now. What are the questions people are asking? We try and figure out what it is that we should be looking at that's going to have the most impact. So for instance, our most recent project was in India and Bangladesh, and we were looking at the fast fashion industry. And we chose to go there just after the head of Inditex, which is the big fashion conglomerate that owns labels like Zara, things like that. He became the richest person on the planet, displacing Bill Gates. And we were like, what on earth is happening in this moment? Who is this person? Where is this wealth coming from? And that set us on this path to India and Bangladesh to try and find out the supply chains of a brand like Zara. Or when Elon Musk gets on a stage in California and proclaims his vision for a green energy future when he was launching the Tesla Powerball battery. It was proclaimed in media as being the most important tech presentation since Steve Jobs launched the iPod. And that was a point where Kate and I said, well, everyone's talking about this right now. Everyone's putting this guy up as a hero. What he doesn't talk about when he's going through his battery and his green energy, solar-powered, battery-powered future is where all the lithium, the key ingredient in all his batteries actually comes from. So at that moment, we decide, well, let's go find out. So we get on a plane and we go to Bolivia, we go to Chile, we go to Argentina, and we try and figure out where all the lithium that's going to power this dream of a green energy future is going to come from, and we try and tell that story. So all of our projects kind of evolve like that. We try and say, well, these are the dominant narratives existing around technology, around the modern city right now, because it's not really enough anymore to talk about a city as a single point on a map. Cities now occur across multiple sites, across multiple territories. They aren't just singular locations anymore, they're networked conditions. Yeah, there's no such thing as a local iPhone. You can't locally grow a Tesla electric car. So all of the objects that we surround ourselves with are made through this global scale supply chain, a conveyor belt that stretches across the planet, connecting us here in this place and the phone in my pocket and the camera that we're shooting this on, all the way back to a range of landscapes scattered around the world. And what we're interested in is how do you start to think about those kind of connections when you talk about an iPhone or a camera or a laptop? These things are geological objects. They're objects of technology, yes, but they're also pieces of geology. They're pieces of the earth, pulled out of the ground, refined, and then shipped across the world. So we're interested in what it means to actually start to engage with the supply chain that produces these technologies in the same way that a designer engages with the shaping and making of our gadgets as physical objects. We go to all this effort when we make those objects to kind of disguise those beginnings in the ground. Our laptops, our phones, they're almost seamless. They're so amazingly thin. There's no joins. They're so slick. What does it mean to actually start to design and develop a new aesthetic for technology that's about connecting it to the earth? I think that's a really interesting possibility. But equally, what does it mean to make decisions about the latest iPhone 12 or wherever we're up to now? To make decisions about that phone based not on how it slides into our pocket or fits in our hand or looks in the latest commercial, but we design it based on the supply chains that it sets in motion. What if we choose to make it out of a certain material because that distributes wealth to a particular landscape in Africa? What if we choose to make it in a certain way that requires a certain type of labor that means it can't be outsourced to young girls in villages in China? I think there's a way of collapsing product design and landscape design into the same kind of act, because in the end they actually are the same kind of act. When we make decisions at the scale of the product or the object or the gadget, we're actually setting in motion design decisions that play out across massive territories. And I think if we're just in control of that more than what we are, or we engineer those systems for things other than the exploitation of cheap resources and labor, then we might get somewhere more interesting. We would both say that we're still acting as architects, but I guess at this point in time, when we're existing within this global scaled megastructure that I've been describing, it's not sufficient to be an architect that just designs buildings as singular objects anymore. Because no building can only deal with the direct adjacencies around it. Actually, it sets in motion much larger movements at the scale of the planet. So an architect that's really operating critically in the world today needs to be engaging with all of the things that Unknown Fields does. So I still think we're doing architecture. I still think we're being architects. Even traditional architects need to be thinking about these kind of things. They need to be designing the supply chains of their buildings. Or maybe they need to be designing the network that produces their buildings, as opposed to just designing the building as an endpoint. What does it mean for that building to just coalesce like a cloud out of a system of flows, networks, and systems? I think that's a really interesting development for the discipline. So the architects that aren't doing this kind of thinking, I think, are really becoming marginalized. Outdated, craft-obsessed dinosaurs perpetuating the mythology of this genius architect sitting in a room designing these sculptures for the world. Actually, what we need to be doing is thinking about our position within a global network of flows, and how, as designers, we can start to engineer and coerce those flows in ways that are actually productive. We don't like to think about the landscapes that our city produces. We don't like to think about the places where our food is produced. And a lot of the dominant media narratives deliberately try and obscure those relationships. And I guess what Unknown Fields tries to do is sort of scratch at the surface and peek through the screen to see the landscapes that exist on the other side.
これはだよ、つながり。Everybody in there.